Hello, hello. Today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to crochet this beautiful twist headband or ear warmer. Here's a couple different color combinations that I have done. We're going to work this one today. They are so cute, so easy, so warm. Let's do it together. Okay, let's cover the materials that we're going to need to work this project from start to finish. For myself, I'm working with worsted weight yarn. I have so much extra yarn that I just need to work through it, and this is a really great project just to use some extra that I have. So for myself, I'm using 2 different colors and I'm gonna work them together. So when I'm working my project, I will be holding my 2 strands of worsted weight yarn together. If you don't want to work with 2 strands of worsted weight yarn, you're totally able to substitute a chunky or 5 weight yarn. Just 1 strand will work for this project. If you have worsted like me, work with 2 together. You're going to need some scissors. You'll need a 6.5 millimeter hook, a yarn needle to weave in our ends, and stitch markers if you're a beginner and feel more confident having even edges using stitch markers. Lastly, you will need a measuring tape, and this is how we're going to start our project. So let's get going. The very first thing I'm going to get you to do is measure around your head where you would wear the headband. So not necessarily around the crown of your head, but kind of over your ears, diagonally across your head. Measure that. Myself, I got a measurement of about 23 inches. I usually wear an adult small medium hat. So if you're looking for adult small medium, just follow this exactly. If not, measure so that we can work and make it specified to you. So 23 inches for me. Let's get started. We are going to grab our 2 worsted weight yarns together. If you're substituting a chunky weight yarn, like I said, just use 1 strand of yarn. To start our project, we're going to work a slip knot. So we're just gonna pull our yarn over, make our little fish, insert our fingers, and grab our yarn to work the slip knot. We're gonna grab our 6.5 millimeter hook, and we're going to work our foundation chain. So because the stitch I'm using for this headband is not very stretchy, and the twist itself kind of shortens the length once you twist it together, my recommendation is to chain however many chains will equal the measurement that you made at the beginning. So for myself, I'm going to chain until I reach 23 inches because that's what I measured. If you're making this specified to your measurements, then chain more or less depending on what measurement you got. So I'm going to start chaining. I will quickly show you here. So we have our slip knot and our hook is into our slip knot. We are going to yarn over our hook and pull through, and that's our first chain. So make sure you're working through both of the yarn and that you have both yarns on your hook at all times so that it is uniform and even. So there's 1, yarn over, pull through, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is what it's going to start looking like. I've worked 5 chains. I'm going to continue working until I reach my 23 inches, and I will meet you there and show you how to work row 1. All right, so I've finished my foundation chain. It measures 23 inches, and I've worked 65 chains. So 65 chains as my foundation chain got me the 23-inch length that I was looking for. Obviously, adjust this number to meet your measurement if you've changed your measurement. And sometimes the yarn or tension might be different than what I'm doing. So it's key, do your measurement. 23 inches for an adult size small medium. I've worked 65 chains. So let's move on. We're going to start working row 1. So for this headband, I've decided to use the linked double crochet. It offers just a really cool texture here. So you can see it almost creates ridges, and I just really love it. Because it's linked, it's a very thick stitch, so it'll keep your head nice and warm during these cold months. I live in Alberta, so when we're reaching -50, I don't want to be cold. Okay, so let's work row 1 together. So to make a nice even edge, I will show you. To have a nice even edge around. I always recommend not to work your first row into the V, but to turn the work over and find these back bars. And that's where you're going to work your first row. So I know it's a little bit harder when there's 2 pieces of yarn, but if you just work slowly and take your time, you will be able to get this done. So let's work row 1 together. We are going to start this off by skipping our very first bar there, and into our second bar, we are going to insert our hook under both pieces of yarn. So make sure you're under both. Then you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So we're going to have 2 on our hook, and you're going to do that one more time. So into your next chain, repeat that, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So this is going to leave you with 3 loops on your hook, and then we'll complete this just like we would a regular double crochet. So you're going to yarn over and pull through for the first 2 loops, and then there'll be 2 left, and yarn over and pull through your final 2 loops. So that's the first stitch of this row. Something I'm going to suggest for a beginner. Once you're done your first stitch, see this V here? This is the top of your first stitch that you did. So I would suggest grabbing a stitch marker and sticking it through there, because then when we're working row 2 and coming back, we know which stitch to work into, and this is going to prevent us from having an uneven edge. So if you are not confident in being able to identify your first stitch, grab a stitch marker, stick it into that first stitch, and continue your work. The rest of the stitches that I'm going to show you will be repeated all the way until the end. So this is an important part. This is the linked double crochet. So when we look at the stitch that we just previously did, we know that this is the top of our stitch here. And there's actually a bar. So you can see it here, this middle bar that's created. And that's very important. So at the beginning of every one of the stitches to follow, we will work through this bar. That links the stitches. Let me show you. So to work the linked double crochet, we find that bar, work our hook underneath there. Then you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Next, you'll find your next chain, and you will insert your hook, and make sure you're getting under both pieces of those yarn. I know that's a little bit tricky sometimes. Then you will yarn over and pull up a loop. You've got 3 on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So that's the linked double crochet. Let's work it a couple more times together. So we're going to find that middle bar, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, to our next chain, pull up a loop, and then finish it off like a double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So if we take a quick peek, you can see that's the bar that we work through, and it's going to create this beautiful line texture through the stitch. And like I said, there's your first stitch and your second stitch, and you have that bar linking them. So I'll work 2 more with you, because this is the stitch we're going to repeat across this row. So insert through that bar, yarn over, pull up a loop into your next bar or chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So that's the linked double crochet. This is the stitch that we're going to work across row 1. So every single stitch across, we're going to work this until the very end, and then I will meet you and show you how to finish off row 1. So here I am, just going to finish up my final 2 stitches of row 1. So it's a pretty easy finish. You are just going to work into your final chain a linked double crochet. So through that bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then into your very last chain here, we are going to work a linked double crochet. And that is the end of row 1. So you're going to have this very long row of linked double crochets. So end of row 1 is pretty simple. Okay, so let's work row 2 now. This is our repeated row, so we'll repeat this row for the rest of this project. To start it off, we will chain 2, and we're going to turn our work around. So something I'm just going to show you, which is really important. Normally when we would work into our stitches, we would work through the entire V, so under both bars of the stitch. And that's how you would normally work across when you're working a row. For us, we're only going to be working into the back bar. So we're not going to work under the whole stitch. We'll only work under the back bar. And that's how we're going to work row 2. Let me show you. We'll start it again here. So we're going to do a chain 2 and turn our work around. Our very first stitch, we won't work into our first chain, but we'll work into our second chain. So insert your hook. Make sure you're going under both pieces of yarn. Yarn over and pull up a loop. And then here's your very first stitch. So like I said, instead of working under the whole stitch, we're just going to work under that back bar. Yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 on your hook, 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. And you'll yarn over and pull through the last 2 on the hook. So that's the first stitch. Just like in the last row, we're going to grab a stitch marker and we're just going to mark our very first stitch to make it easier when we're coming back around. When we get to the end of this row, you'll understand what I mean there. So that was my first stitch. I'm still going to find that middle bar, which is right there. And this is how the rest of the row will be worked. So for your middle bar, insert your hook underneath there, yarn over and pull up a loop. And then find your next stitch. So there's your next stitch here. And you're not going to work through the whole stitch, but just like the last one, you're going to work through the back bar. Then you'll yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. I'll show you one more time here. So there's my middle bar when you're looking at it, just right here. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then the back bar only of my stitch, and then finish the stitch off just like a regular double crochet. So that's what we're going to work. This is the linked double crochet in the back loop only, all the way across this row. And the best thing about this project is that is the row that we're going to repeat. So I will meet you at the end of row 2 so I can show you how to finish off the row, and then we will talk about how to finish off the project. So I'll just quickly show you here by working into that back loop, we've left the front loop out at the front and it leaves that really beautiful texture. So if you're wondering why I did the back loop, that is it. I will meet you at the end of row 2 and we will finish it off together. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up the last couple stitches of row 2 here with you so we know how to finish off a repeated row. So we're just going to work the linked double crochet into our final stitch. So this is the second last stitch here. And then we put that stitch marker in so we know that that's the final stitch there. So you can take the stitch marker out. That's our final stitch, and we're just going to do a linked double crochet. So in through that bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then into that final stitch. Into the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then you're going to finish it off. So that's the end of row 2. It is just going to be a very long, skinny rectangle. And then that's what we're going to work for our desired width. So personally, I wanted my headband to be 5 inches wide, and I work about 6 rows. So what I'm going to do is quickly show you how to start off row 3, which is just a repeat of row 2, and then I will meet you at the end of 6 rows and we'll see how we are progressing with our headband. So chain 2, turn your work around and start working those linked double crochets in the second chain from your hook into that back bar. And then again, just mark your first stitch. Just going to move this at the other side. There we go. And then work those linked double crochets all the way across this row. So this headband's super easy. As long as you can get the linked double crochet down, you should have no problem working this headband. I'm going to continue working until I reach the end of row 6. So what I will do is I will leave you to it. I will meet you at the end of row 6, and we will see where we are for our measurements and if we are going to finish off the headband or work a couple more rows. So I'm just finishing up my 6th row here. I'll work in my final stitch where my stitch marker is. And we are going to have something that looks like this. So it's just a very, very long rectangle. So let's make a headband now. So I'm just going to double check that it's about the same width as this other one I made, and it looks like it's pretty on par. So 6 rows. If you're looking to match this one, if you did want it thicker, feel free to add another row or 2 depending on what size headband you want. This one here is measuring 4.5 inches-ish wide. So for reference purposes, about 4.5 inches. We are going to grab our scissors and we're just going to snip both pieces of our yarn and then get rid of the yarn because we do not need it anymore. And you're going to pull the tails through of the headband. So there's your tails, you've pulled them through. So this next step is actually so easy when we're combining and putting the hat together. So the last step for making our headband is super, super easy. So we're going to grab our yarn needle and we're going to thread both pieces of yarn through here. So there's our first piece of yarn and then thread through your second piece also. And just try to make it a little bit even. Okay. You're going to grab your work. You can decide which side you want to be on the outside. This is the side that I want to be on my head. So I'm choosing this side here. So we're going to fold this together. So the side on the inside here is going to be turned inside out when we're done, and that is going to be what is shown on our head. So we've snipped our yarn. We have attached our yarn needle. We've determined which side we want on the outside. We've folded it onto the inside, and you're going to have your 2 pieces together like this. You're going to take one piece and you're going to fold it together like this and make it as even as you can. And you're going to do the exact same thing on this side. So you're going to fold your pieces together. You're going to make 2 little Pac-Man. And then you're going to marry these pieces. So open one side up and marry them like this. And you're going to want to make them as even as possible because we are going to now take our yarn needle and weave in and sew this together. So we have our pieces like that now. I'm going to show you one more time. So I've got my full headband. I've got my 2 pieces together. I'm going to fold them both in half and make little Pac-Man. And then I'm going to marry them like this. I'm going to make it as even as I possibly can. And now let's sew this together. So grab your yarn needle with your yarn that you've hooked up to it. Start on the side that the yarn's on. And what you're going to do is you're going to work through all 4 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you get through all 4 of them because if you miss a row, it will leave a gap once you turn it inside out. So that's very important. Take your time. There's no need to rush this. And you're just going to go back and forth. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're going to work this back and forth until the very end. So I'm working my final sewing through. And now what you can do is with the same needle, just weave in. Actually, I would tie a knot on these ones. This is on the inside, so it's okay that you're tying a knot. And then for this, you're going to weave in the ends. So you can literally just weave it through back and forth a couple times. You've already went back and forth a bunch with this piece, so it's pretty secure, but there's no reason why we can't make it very secure. Hats are taken on and off often, or headbands are, so you don't want it falling apart on you. Once you've finished with that, give it a tiny little snip. I'd also tie a little knot in this one. And then snip the remainder off there. Time for the magic. So there's that piece you've just sewn in. You've got your whole band. You're going to turn it right side out. And you have this beautiful twist headband. Just like that. Stunning and so easy. So easy. I hope that this tutorial helped you guys figure out how to make this awesome crochet headband.